Most people wonder why they feel invisible in a world that seems to reward the loudest voices. They work harder, give more, stay longer, yet find themselves perpetually undervalued. The painful truth is not that you lack worth. It is that you have been systematically trained to display your value in ways that guarantee it will be ignored. The world does not respect those who advertise their desperation. It bows to those who understand the silent mathematics of power. Let's strip away the comfortable lies. High value is not something you are born with. It is not a gift from the universe. It is a calculated construction, a deliberate architecture of perception that you must build brick by brick in the minds of those around you. The person of high value is not necessarily more talented, more intelligent, or more deserving. They simply understand something fundamental about human nature that others refuse to accept. People do not value what they understand completely. They value what remains partially hidden, what requires effort to access, what carries the weight of consequence. Think about the most powerful figures you have encountered either in person or through observation. What distinguishes them is not their willingness to please everyone. It is their selective availability, their measured responses, their ability to create a gravitational field that pulls others toward them rather than chasing opportunities themselves. This is not accidental. This is strategic architecture. The first principle of becoming high value is understanding that you are operating in a marketplace of perception. Every interaction is a transaction. Every conversation is a negotiation. Every moment of your attention is a form of currency that you either spend wisely or waste carelessly. The masses waste it. They give their energy to anyone who asks, respond to every message instantly, make themselves endlessly available, and then wonder why they are treated as disposable. Machiavelli understood something that modern self-help gurus desperately try to sugarcoat. The world is not a meritocracy where the best rise naturally to the top. It is a complex system of power dynamics where those who understand the rules dominate those who believe in fairness. You could be the most skilled person in the room and still be paid the least if you have not learned to frame your value correctly. Skill without strategy is just expensive labor. Consider the psychological principle of scarcity. Human beings are hardwired through millions of years of evolution to assign higher value to resources that appear limited. This is not a bug in our programming. It is a feature. Our ancestors survived by recognizing which resources were abundant and which required competition to obtain. The abundant was taken for granted. The scarce was fought over, protected, treasured. Your presence operates under the same evolutionary logic. When you make yourself constantly available, you trigger the psychological response reserved for abundant resources. Useful, perhaps, but not precious. The transformation begins when you recognize that your time, your attention, your knowledge, and your presence are not infinite resources to be distributed freely. They are rare elements that must be protected, rationed, and offered only under specific conditions. This is not cruelty, this is conservation of power. The person who gives everything to everyone ends up with nothing for themselves, not even respect. Let's talk about the mechanics of this transformation. Becoming high value requires you to audit every area of your life where you are currently operating from a position of low value behavior. Where are you over-explaining yourself? Where are you responding too quickly? Where are you accepting treatment that diminishes you? Where are you saying yes when your strategic interest demands a no? These are the leaks in your power structure. Each one represents a place where your value is draining away unnoticed. The high-value individual understands that explanation is the language of the subordinate. When you justify your decisions, your prices, your boundaries, you are unconsciously communicating that these things are negotiable, that they require external validation to exist. Power does not explain itself. It simply is. The moment you begin defending your worth, you have already lost the frame. You have entered into a conversation where your value is being questioned. And by participating in that conversation, you validate the question itself. Watch how the truly powerful operate. They state their terms without apology. They set their prices without justification. They establish their boundaries without lengthy explanations of why those boundaries exist. This is not rudeness. This is clarity. The person who must convince you of their value does not possess it. The person who simply embodies it needs no campaign. There is a specific type of silence that the high-value person masters. It is not the silence of someone who has nothing to say. It is the silence of someone who recognizes that words once spoken cannot be retrieved. Every unnecessary word you speak is information given to those who might use it against you. Every over-explanation is a window into your insecurities. Every rushed response is evidence of your need for validation. The strategic mind speaks less and observes more, because information flows toward the silent and away from the verbose. You have probably noticed that people who talk constantly about their plans rarely achieve them. This is not coincidental. There is a psychological phenomenon where discussing your intentions gives you a premature sense of accomplishment, reducing the motivation to actually execute. But there is a deeper strategic reason to remain silent about your moves. When you announce your plans, you invite interference, skepticism, and competition. When you move in silence, you maintain the element of surprise. You deny potential adversaries the information they need to block you. Becoming high value means becoming comfortable with being misunderstood. The masses will interpret your selectivity as arrogance. They will mistake your boundaries for coldness. They will confuse your strategic silence with aloofness. Let them. Their misunderstanding is not your problem to fix. The person who needs everyone to understand them is still seeking validation from the crowd. The high-value individual understands that universal approval is the prize of the mediocre. Respect from the few who matter is the currency of power. Let's examine the social dynamics at play. In any group, there is an invisible hierarchy that has nothing to do with official titles or positions. This hierarchy is determined by perceived value, and perceived value is largely a function of how you allow yourself to be treated. The person who accepts disrespect teaches others that disrespecting them carries no cost. The person who swiftly and decisively responds to boundary violations teaches others that there are consequences to crossing them. You are training people how to treat you with every interaction, whether you realize it or not. This training happens through a process behaviorists call operant conditioning. When someone treats you poorly and you accept it, you have rewarded that behavior with your continued presence. You have taught them that they can extract value from you without offering respect in return. When someone treats you well and you acknowledge it appropriately, you reinforce that behavior. The high-value person is always aware of what behaviors they are reinforcing. They withdraw attention and access from those who demonstrate low-value behavior. They increase investment in those who show proper respect. But here is where most people fail in their attempt to become high-value. They confuse high-value behavior with performance. They try to act high-value while still operating from a mindset of scarcity and need. This creates incongruence, and human beings are remarkably good at detecting incongruence. You cannot fake high value. You must build it from the inside out. It must become your genuine operating system, not a mask you wear. The internal shift happens when you truly internalize that you do not need any specific outcome. You do not need this job. You do not need this relationship. You do not need this opportunity. This is not about lying to yourself or pretending you have no desires. It is about recognizing that your well-being and your identity are not dependent on any external validation. The person who needs something is always at a disadvantage in negotiation. The person who wants something but does not need it holds all the power. Machiavelli wrote extensively about the importance of appearing strong even in moments of weakness. But there is a level beyond appearance. True high value comes from actually being strong, from having built your life in such a way that you genuinely have options. This is why the high-value person invests relentlessly in themselves. They build skills that are rare and valuable. They cultivate knowledge that others need. They develop a reputation that precedes them. They create systems that generate opportunity rather than chasing individual chances. Think about the difference between the employee who is easily replaceable and the one who is not. The replaceable employee has common skills, follows instructions, and does what is expected. The irreplaceable employee has unique expertise, solves problems others cannot, and creates value that did not exist before their involvement. Both might work the same hours, but one has leverage and the other does not. Leverage is the foundation of high value. Without it, you are simply another interchangeable part in someone else's machine. Building leverage requires you to become excellent at something specific. Generalists are abundant. Specialists are scarce. The person who can do many things adequately will always be outmaneuvered by the person who can do one thing exceptionally. This is not about limiting yourself. It is about concentrating your efforts where they generate the most power. Once you have established dominance in one domain, you can expand. But trying to be everything to everyone is the fastest path to being nothing to anyone. The high-value person also understands the power of association. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, not because of some mystical force, but because of social mirroring and normalized behavior. If you surround yourself with people who accept mediocrity, who complain constantly, who have no standards, their reality becomes your baseline. If you surround yourself with people who demand excellence, who think strategically, who refuse to settle, their standards become your floor. This means you must be ruthless in curating your social environment, not cruel but selective. Every person in your inner circle should either be teaching you something, supporting your growth, or matching your energy. Anyone who consistently drains you, doubts you, or diminishes you is a liability you cannot afford. The high-value person does not maintain relationships out of guilt or history. They maintain relationships based on current mutual value. Let's address a common misconception. Some people believe that becoming high-value means becoming cold, unfeeling, or antisocial. This is a fundamental misunderstanding. High value is not about lacking warmth. It is about being selective with where you direct that warmth. The sun does not shine equally on all things. It has its patterns, its seasons, its focus. You too must learn to be generous with your energy toward those who have earned it and neutral toward those who have not. There is a particular skill that separates the high value from the average. It is the ability to walk away. Most people cannot do this. They become attached to specific outcomes, specific people, specific opportunities. This attachment makes them manipulable. The person who cannot walk away from a negotiation will always get the worst deal. The person who cannot walk away from a disrespectful relationship will always be disrespected. The person who cannot walk away from a job that undervalues them will always be underpaid. Walking away is not about being impulsive or burning bridges carelessly. It is about having a line that cannot be crossed and the self-respect to enforce it. When someone crosses that line, you do not argue, you do not explain, you do not give second and third and fourth chances, you simply remove your presence. This sends a message that is far more powerful than any words. It communicates that access to you is a privilege that can be revoked. The high-value person also masters the art of strategic absence. They understand that constant presence breeds familiarity, and familiarity breeds contempt. This is why the most powerful figures are rarely seen in casual settings. They appear at specific moments, make their impact, and withdraw. Their absence creates anticipation. Their presence becomes an event. Compare this to the person who is always available, always in the group chat, always at every gathering. Their presence becomes expected, then ignored, then taken for granted. You might be thinking this sounds manipulative. Good. You are beginning to understand. All social interaction is manipulation. The question is whether you are doing it consciously and strategically or unconsciously and carelessly. The person who claims they never manipulate is simply unaware of how they are manipulating. They are still pushing for outcomes, still trying to be perceived in certain ways, still attempting to influence others. They are just doing it badly. Machiavelli's great insight was not that princes should be evil. It was that they should be effective. Morality is a luxury of those who have already secured power. For those still climbing, for those still building, for those still fighting for position, effectiveness must come first. You can be as moral as you wish once you have the power to protect yourself and those you care about. But if you lead with naivety, you will be destroyed by those who do not share your scruples. Becoming high value requires you to develop what might be called strategic empathy. This is different from emotional empathy. Emotional empathy is feeling what others feel. Strategic empathy is understanding what others feel, so you can predict their behavior and position yourself advantageously. The high-value person is not necessarily kind, but they are always aware. They read the room. They notice what motivates people. They recognize patterns of behavior. This information becomes leverage. Let's talk about the specific behaviors that signal high value. First, response time. The person who responds instantly to every message signals that they have nothing more important to do. The person who responds thoughtfully after a delay signals that their time is allocated to priorities, and you must wait your turn. This is not about playing games. It is about genuine priority management. If you actually are busy building something valuable, you will not have time to respond instantly to everything. Second, the ability to say no. The word no is a complete sentence. It requires no justification. The high-value person says no to most things so they can say yes to the few things that truly matter. They understand that every yes to something unimportant is a no to something important. Their time and energy are finite resources that must be invested, not spent. Third, emotional control. The person who is easily provoked, who reacts emotionally to criticism, who cannot maintain composure under pressure, is signaling low value. They are demonstrating that they can be controlled through emotional manipulation. The high-value person maintains a calm center regardless of external chaos. This is not about suppressing emotion. It is about choosing when and how to express it rather than being controlled by it. Fourth, outcome independence. This is perhaps the most important signal. The person who desperately needs a specific outcome will compromise anything to get it. The person who wants an outcome but does not need it can negotiate from strength. They can walk away if the terms are not acceptable. This transforms every interaction because the other party can sense that pressure tactics will not work. Fifth, the quality of your questions. Low-value people make statements trying to prove their worth. High-value people ask questions that demonstrate their understanding. The person asking questions controls the frame of the conversation. They are gathering information while revealing little. They are making the other person invest in the interaction. Questions are a tool of power when used strategically. Now let's discuss the economic dimension of high value. Your market value is not determined by your effort. It is determined by the results you generate and how difficult you are to replace. This is why some people work brutal hours for minimal pay while others work leisurely schedules for extraordinary compensation. The difference is not fairness, it is leverage. To increase your economic value, you must either increase the results you generate or decrease your replaceability. Ideally both. Increasing results means focusing on outcomes rather than activities. Nobody cares how hard you worked if the outcome is mediocre. Decreasing replaceability means developing skills or knowledge that are rare in your market. This might mean going deeper into a specialization, combining skills in unique ways, or building a personal brand that makes you the obvious choice. The high-value person also understands pricing psychology. When you price yourself too low, you do not just lose money, you lose respect. People unconsciously associate price with quality. If you are cheap, you must be common. If you are expensive, you must be valuable. This is not always true, but it is how human psychology works. Therefore, the strategic move is often to price yourself at the high end of your market and deliver quality that justifies it. But pricing high only works if you can walk away from those who will not pay it. This brings us back to outcome independence. You must be genuinely willing to have fewer clients at higher prices rather than many clients at low prices. This is terrifying for most people because it requires faith in your own value, but it is the only path to premium positioning. There is also a relational dimension to high value that must be addressed. In personal relationships, high value is demonstrated through self-respect and boundaries. The person who tolerates disrespect, who accepts breadcrumbs of attention, who remains available to someone who is not equally invested, is signaling low value. They are teaching the other person that they can be treated carelessly without consequence. The high-value person in relationships is not playing hard to get. They genuinely are selective. They do not need a relationship to feel complete. They want a partnership that adds value to an already fulfilling life. This makes them naturally attractive because people are drawn to those who seem complete in themselves. Neediness repels. Self-sufficiency attracts. This does not mean being cold or withholding affection. It means offering affection from a place of abundance rather than need. The person who gives because they are overflowing is attractive. The person who gives because they are trying to earn love is desperate. The energy behind the action matters more than the action itself. Let's examine the role of reputation and high value. Your reputation is the story that people tell about you when you are not in the room. It is built through consistent behavior over time. The high-value person is obsessive about protecting their reputation because they understand it is a form of capital. One moment of poor judgment can destroy years of careful construction. This means being strategic about what you are known for. You cannot be known for everything, so choose carefully. What do you want to be the obvious choice for? What do you want people to think of when they hear your name? Then behave in ways that consistently reinforce that association. Reputation is built through repetition and reliability. It also means being careful about what battles you fight. The high-value person does not respond to every provocation. They understand that some things are beneath their attention. Responding to low-value attacks often just amplifies them and associates you with drama. Strategic silence is often the most powerful response. Let your results speak. Let your continued success be your answer. There is a particular mindset shift that must occur to truly embody high value. You must move from seeking validation to granting it. The low-value person needs others to confirm their worth. The high-value person is the standard by which worth is measured. They do not ask if they are good enough. They evaluate whether others meet their standards. This is not arrogance if it is backed by genuine capability and self-development. It is simply an accurate assessment of your position. If you have built real skills, if you have achieved real results, if you have developed real character, then you have earned the right to be selective. You are not hoping to be chosen. You are doing the choosing. This shift changes everything. When you enter a job interview, not hoping they will hire you, but evaluating whether they deserve your talent, your energy changes. When you enter a relationship, not hoping they will choose you, but deciding whether they meet your standards, your behavior changes. This is not fake confidence. This is the natural result of having built genuine value. The high-value person also understands timing. They know when to advance and when to withdraw. They recognize that power is often gained not through action, but through strategic inaction. Sometimes the most powerful move is to do nothing and let the situation develop. Patience is a weapon that most people have not learned to wield. This requires you to think in longer time horizons than most people. The masses think in days and weeks. The strategic think in months and years. They are willing to accept short-term discomfort for long-term positioning. They plant seeds knowing they will not see the harvest immediately. This delayed gratification is one of the clearest markers of high-value thinking. Let's address the internal work required. Becoming high-value externally is impossible without becoming high-value internally. This means developing your mind, your body, your skills, and your character. The external signals of high value must be supported by internal substance, or they will eventually be revealed as hollow. Mental development means reading, learning, thinking critically, and exposing yourself to ideas that challenge your assumptions. The high-value person is intellectually curious and constantly upgrading their mental models. They understand that knowledge is leverage and ignorance is vulnerability. Physical development means taking care of your body. This is not vanity. This is recognizing that your physical presence communicates messages about your self-discipline and self-respect. The person who neglects their health is signaling that they do not value themselves. Why should anyone else? Skill development means deliberately practicing things that are difficult until they become easy. The high-value person is always working on their craft, whatever that craft might be. They are not satisfied with current competence. They are pursuing mastery. Character development means building integrity, reliability, and courage. These are not moral luxuries. These are strategic assets. The person with integrity can be trusted, which makes them valuable in long-term relationships. The person with reliability can be counted on, which makes them irreplaceable. The person with courage can make difficult decisions, which makes them a leader. All of this requires you to become comfortable with being different. High value is by definition rare. If you are doing what everyone else is doing, you will get what everyone else gets. You must be willing to stand apart, to be misunderstood, to be criticized by those who are threatened by your refusal to play small. The masses will try to pull you back down. They will call you arrogant, selfish, cold. They will accuse you of thinking you are better than them. Let them. Their judgment is the price of admission to a higher level. If everyone approves of you, you are aiming too low. Machiavelli understood that the prince must be willing to be seen as cruel to avoid greater cruelty later. Applied to personal development, you must be willing to be seen as difficult or demanding to avoid the greater suffering of being taken for granted. Short-term discomfort in enforcing boundaries prevents long-term exploitation. Becoming high value is not a destination. It is a continuous process of refinement. You do not arrive at high value and then relax. You must constantly maintain and upgrade your position because the world is full of people trying to climb the same ladder. Complacency is the enemy of sustained high value. This means regular self-auditing. Where are you slipping? Where are you accepting less than you deserve? Where are you being too available? Where are you explaining when you should be asserting? These small slides in standards are how high value erodes. Vigilance is required. It also means being willing to cut losses quickly. When something is not working, when someone is not respecting you, when an opportunity is revealed to be less than it appeared, you must have the courage to walk away immediately. Sunk cost fallacy destroys more value than almost any other cognitive bias. The time you have already invested is gone. The only question that matters is whether continued investment is strategic. The high-value person is also strategic about their generosity. They're not stingy, but they are intentional. They give to those who appreciate it, who reciprocate in some form, who are aligned with their values. They do not give to prove their worth or to obligate others. They give from strength, not weakness. This means sometimes giving extravagantly to the right people and nothing to the wrong people. The masses will call this unfair. Let them. Fairness is a concept invented by the weak to constrain the strong. The strategic person allocates resources where they generate the most return, whether that return is measured in loyalty, reputation, or future opportunity. Let's conclude with the ultimate truth about high value. It is not about being better than others in some objective sense. It is about being perceived as more valuable in the specific contexts that matter to you. A diamond is just compressed carbon, but context and scarcity make it precious. You are building the context and scarcity around yourself. Every decision you make either adds to or subtracts from your perceived value. Every boundary you enforce or fail to enforce, every standard you maintain or compromise, every time you choose quality over quantity, every time you walk away from what does not serve you, these are the small decisions that compound into high value or low value over time. You are either becoming more valuable or less valuable with each passing day. There is no neutral. The world is constantly testing you, probing for weakness, seeing what you will accept. Your responses to these tests determine your trajectory. Becoming high value is ultimately about self-respect made visible. It is about deciding that you will no longer participate in your own devaluation. It is about recognizing that you train people how to treat you and choosing to train them well. It is about understanding that the world will value you exactly as much as you value yourself, no more and no less. This is not easy. It requires you to disappoint people, to be misunderstood, to stand alone sometimes. But the alternative is worse. The alternative is a life of being overlooked, undervalued, and taken for granted. The alternative is reaching the end and realizing you gave yourself away for nothing. So make the decision now. Decide that you are high value, not because the world has confirmed it yet, but because you are going to build it into reality through strategic action. Decide that your time, your attention, your knowledge, and your presence are precious resources that will be offered selectively and strategically. Decide that you will no longer explain, justify, or apologize for your standards. Decide that you will build skills that make you irreplaceable, cultivate knowledge that makes you valuable, and develop character that makes you trustworthy. Decide that you will be selective in all things, from who you spend time with to what opportunities you pursue. The world is waiting to see what price you put on yourself. Set it high. Enforce it consistently. Build the substance to back it up, and watch as everything changes.